3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Two Dudes Talking About Motorcycles. Two Dudes Talking Motorcycles. I forgot we took out the about. I'm dude number 1. My name is Gleb.
I'm guy number 2. My name's Mitch.
Okay, and you can find us on social media over here and over there. And our podcast email will go right there in the middle. So if you have any questions, comments, suggestions for future topics, feel free to let us know because we'd love to hear from you guys. And just a big shout out because we didn't expect to have over 500 total listeners at this point, but we do. We have a lot of listeners, so
awesome.
We're very surprised by that. So whoever listens to this, thank you so much and hope you stick around longer.
You guys are champs.
You guys are champs. So this week or this month for this podcast, we're going to be talking about kind of a beginner bikes, and we're going to be talking about our suggestions and recommendations for like different models of beginner bikes, and as well as how to go about finding your first or beginner bike. But before we get into our main topic, we're going to talk about a very much non-beginner bike.
I was going to say the opposite of a beginner bike.
Yep, exactly.
In all regards.
It's very expensive. It's very powerful. In fact, it has the largest engine in a production motorcycle in the world at the moment. And that is the 2023 Triumph Rocket 3 GT.
So good.
It was such a fantastic bike. Shout out to Eurosports Utah for letting us know that there was a demo of that bike there. So we popped on down and decided to try it out. And I mean, it was a fantastic thing to ride.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, for the video listeners, do you have a picture of that? Did we get this?
Yes, I do have a picture of that. Let me pull it up. Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah. Wherever it be. Whatever
you know
it
what?
is.
Maybe I don't have it.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
There it is.
Yeah.
Okay. We do have it. There you go. Sorry about that. We're a little scrambling this week. If you notice, we're actually publishing a little bit later this time because we had a few technical difficulties on our first recording, so we have to redo it. Anyways, back to the Rocket 3. It is first of all, beautiful looking bike. I absolutely love the dual headlight setup. If you're listening to this, check it out when you have a chance because this thing is stunning. And I absolutely love the exhaust headers on the side there. Just the three of them. It just looks so like mean and brutal and menacing.
Yeah.
And it just makes me it just made me feel really cool sitting on top of that.
To me,
thing.
it looks like a motorcycle that like Batman would ride.
Exactly.
Like it's just such a cool
if it was
looking bike.
Matte black,
with
blackout headlights, and like a bat symbol instead of a Triumph symbol, and definitely be something.
And missiles.
And missiles, yeah. I could see them launching out of like where the air intake is. There.
So.
I think that will work well. But it was a fantastic bike, and I absolutely loved riding it. And despite it being a big bike, what surprised me the most is the way it handles. Even at lower speeds, you really don't feel the weight of the bike because the center of gravity is so low because that engine is so heavy. Once you get it moving, it's a very maneuverable machine, even around parking lots, which kind of surprised me because I expected to feel heavy and be heavy because it is not a light bike.
Yeah, and that's what surprised me too. Is just like when I did stop into like a parking lot, just to like let's see how this thing handles because like I got it going really fast. Of course, I mean, but I got it. It's such a powerful big machine. For you haven't been on like a more like laid back kind of bike before. It's kind of weird to get used to at first. But then in the parking lot, that thing I just felt confident as like let's all get out.
Very confidence inspiring bike.
There's no reason somebody who has some experience with bigger bikes, there's no reason they shouldn't go demo one of these if they can.
They definitely should, and I agree because what really stood out is not only is that bike really good at handling, it is also very, very fast. 160 horsepower, 163 pound-feet of torque, I think. And you definitely feel it. Like, even in first gear, like, that thing's already taking off and flying. And it does not take very long to start breaking a few speed limit laws if you're not too careful with it.
Yeah.
Because it is an absolute beast of a bike. And I also found it very comfortable.
It was surprisingly comfortable.
Yeah. It had a very nice, big, cushy seat. And it had all the creature comforts you'd expect from a bike that costs $25,000.
You'd hope.
It was... had heated seats or heated grips. I don't know if it had a heated seat or not. I couldn't find a button for it.
I didn't look myself.
But, I didn't look either. I didn't look too much through the menus because it was late in the day and we don't want to take up the dealership's time too much.
Yeah. So
what was your like first impression when you got on it?
It was very like, for me it was really strange because like I got on there and I lifted it up and I was expecting like this big heavy bike, but like off the kickstand it wasn't heavy to pull up. And that's maybe because I'm used to a taller bike where you have a higher center of gravity and you kind of got to work that over.
Yeah.
You know, but not that thing was just.
Honestly, when I kicked up the kickstand, I was just like, oh wow, this thing's just balanced.
Yeah.
Like,
and we were on the more cruiser setup one too. So it was like, so for me, like the only thing for me was just like, it was weird just getting my feet in the right place. Like,
yeah.
I remember taking off. I remember taking off and I just tried to like go and put my foot up in like the standard position.
Yep.
The upright, the standard riding position. So my feet just like dropped down as I'm like going like 5 miles an hour.
I did the same thing because I was just like, wait, where's the peg? I was just like, it's further front.
Yeah, it's like it's out here now.
Yeah.
So,
but it's not a super aggressive cruiser position.
You're not
like you're fully stretched out there.
No.
It's a very neutral. It's just your legs are more forward.
It was just it's not like an ape hanger by any means. It was, but it just like your feet are more forward is all. Yeah. But no, it was very comfortable. I felt like I could like pack a bag and just ride off into the sunset on that thing and peel my skin off at top speed.
The one we rode was the GT model. They also have the R, which is which is the more kind of a street-oriented model, I should say. So it has a standard riding position where your feet are right below.
That's right. So it's more like
angle.
Sporty.
Yeah, it's a lot more sporty and stuff. It doesn't have. I don't think it has as big of a pillion seat and the pillion backrest like the GT does.
Oh yeah.
And probably some other missing features.
Some on there.
The only thing that kind of surprised me is, despite it being a $25,000 bike, it did not have electronic suspension, at least in the front. I didn't check to see if it had the back. It was electronic or not.
Yeah, I don't remember.
But the front was
the rear was, I want to say, but I don't want to quote that either.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head. But I was kind of surprised that the front was not electronically adjusted, because I kind of expected something like that to be the case on a bike that expensive.
Yeah.
But maybe they're trying to keep it more like stripped down, more manual.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, because I hit some bumps and it wasn't bad either.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't. Another thing I did think of too, from like in the time since we've ridden that bike, drive shaft.
Oh, it is a shaft drive. Huh?
Yeah. So
that's very nice.
It's yes.
Don't have to worry about cleaning or maintenance except for once in a lifetime, probably.
Yeah.
If that.
I really want winter to be over, but I really don't want to clean my chain.
No, you're gonna have to do it, man.
I know.
At least you got a center stand now, so you can clean it much easier. So, shall we move on to our main topic?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Oh, we got to thank them, though, for letting us hit that demo, because that was awesome.
Yeah, thank you again to
Eurosports Utah now.
Yep. Formerly Harrison Eurosports, if you're in the area, or if you're planning on looking them up. If you live in Utah, definitely check them out, because they're awesome folks down there, and they have plenty of bikes. They have BMWs, Triumph, Ducatis. So
I haven't had a bad experience down there yet. So
pop in and see if they got a demo.
Mm-hmm.
So our main topic, like I mentioned earlier, is beginning motorcycles. So I have a small little list of beginner bikes that I think would kind of work for someone just barely starting out, something that's relatively low price. I kind of try to keep it under $10,000 for a brand new bike or for a used one. And kind of separate into different categories. And you kind of had just different suggestions on what to look for, correct?
Yeah, that's because when we had this idea come up, I was thinking like, oh well, like let's just talk, like we can talk about like our recommendations for beginner bikes. But then I started thinking like, well, there's different kinds of riders.
Yeah, people
who start out really young or into like early to mid to late 20s and even beyond. People can start at any age,
pretty much.
So it's just like and then within that, there's people who want to do different kind of riding.
Yeah,
I wanted to start out on cruisers. I thought I wanted a cruiser one. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So I wanted a cruiser when I started, and I got into riding, and I rode my Honda Rebel. I do think that's a really good like beginner cruiser bike.
Yeah.
For like if you're someone who's maybe smaller stature, or you don't have like the height, because that can be a challenge for.
Yeah. I mean,
his height.
Yeah,
but I was thinking then, because we talked about it earlier too, or last week as well, was the so my dad rides a Honda Shadow Rebel 750.
Yeah,
and honestly, like if you want a V twin, and you don't want to go out and spend a ton of money, those. Honestly, it's a nice bike. Those Shadow, Honda Shadows, like it's a nice ride, and they're not too expensive.
That's a little bit of an older bike, right?
It's pretty more bare bones. Yeah, it's more bare bones. I don't know if they've updated it. I'm pretty sure they do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure. But
it is a more bare bones bike. I'm pretty sure, unless they've done updates that I haven't looked into. But like, again, as a beginner, you want to get into like that. That style of riding, I think that'd be a good bike that you can learn with and then grow into. So you should be like set for a while.
That makes sense
for a cruiser. But what about you? What did you kind of go for?
I actually did have the little categories here. So for one of them, I did have the Honda Rebel as part of the cruiser, also along with the Vulcan S, the Kawasaki Vulcan. Because one, I think they're very nice looking bikes, especially in that kind of a darker green they have. Which normally I'm not the biggest fan of, like the bright green that Kawasaki puts on a lot of their bikes, but I think it looks very nice on the Vulcan because it kind of just works well with like the chrome or the blackout on it. I think it just adds a lot to it. And also, I feel like it's a little bit darker than a lot of their other colors, so maybe that kind of helps. I was
just gonna make a joke about Kawasaki and Monster Energy Green.
But I think it's a pretty looking bike, and it is, I think it's a 650cc, so I think that's a very good kind of a starting range for a beginner bike. Yeah. And along with that, I also have the Rebel 500, because I remember you had yours. Mm-hmm. And I remember, I've rode, I don't know if I ever rode yours, but I have ridden a Rebel 500 before, and it is a very low to the ground, it's not an intimidating bike. So I think that'd be a very nice beginner bike. Whether you want to get into like a cruiser category or just have a beginner bike, I think it's a very good one to start off with.
Yeah, and like, I could probably go on and on for like things that I didn't like about the Rebel now that I have more experience as I go riding and stuff now. You know? But honestly, it was a great bike. Like all things considered, for the price, for like the looks for it. Yeah. And then like, because again, I was not pretty nervous. I was a little nervous getting into riding,
all of us.
And so it did help me, like being able to get out there starting on a smaller bike. Yeah. Even though I'm 6 foot, and but I would, because like walking into the dealership, and I see that big, tall Africa Twin, I was like, oh no.
Oh yeah, the Africa Twin is a very intimidating looking bike.
Yeah, but on the downside of that, it does seem like 500cc is easy to grow out of, especially if you're a bigger person or because you want to start doing more traveling.
Just like you, I also started out on the 500cc bike. Yeah. In fact, our bikes had the same exact engine.
Yeah, same
it was
engines.
Just tuned a little bit different, because my first bike was the Honda CB500X, the 2019 model. And from the start, I knew that I wanted to get into the adventure bike category, because I've been watching Itchy Boots on YouTube for a while at that point. Several other riders that have traveled, throughout the world on motorcycles, and they all have adventure bikes. I'm like, that is something that I would really want to do. I want to have an adventure bike because I want to be able to ride on road and off road, and I wanted something like that. So after doing some research, going through a few models, which included the Honda.
We're good. Sorry.
Okay. So, which included the Honda CB500X. I tried the Royal Enfield, the Himalayan, the Kawasaki Versys 300, and all really good beginner bikes and very low priced bikes. But I decided to go with the 500X because the other ones I probably would have grown out of very quick. Because the 500 I had for 2 years, and it did feel like it grew out really quick. Yeah. But that's what I have on my list for beginner ADV bike, is the Honda CB500X. And I also added the Honda CRF 300L if you want something a little bit more dirt oriented, but still has fairings and a little bit larger fuel tank than your average dual sport.
Something I realized too, it's like, because we had the same engine, same 500cc bikes, and like you got roughly 2 years or a little more than 2 years out of yours. I got like 8 or 7 months out of mine before I jumped on mine, and we've talked about it before, like, oh, I got this good deal, but at the same time, like, I was ready to upgrade at that point too. You know, and so it was very like, so it's just interesting to see there's between two perspectives of just like, oh, like, well, what's gonna work? Yeah, exactly. For how long you can hold out for.
And I felt like I probably could have gone even longer on my CB500X, but once I rode the Tiger 900 that I have now, I was just like, oh, this is too good.
Yeah.
This is too good of a bike. Like, it just felt so much more refined.
Yeah.
Way more power, way better suspension, like way better handling. I was like, yeah, I'm sold. I'm sold.
Right.
I tried the Africa Twin before that, and I was like, this is good, but it just feels so top heavy.
Yeah.
Like, I was not a big fan, but I did like how it had a pretty substantial electronics package on it compared to the Triumph.
Yeah.
For relatively same price. Okay, so further down the list, I have a naked and standard bike. So I had the Suzuki SV650 because that's a favorite of Reddit. So I just decided to throw that on there. But in all reality, it is a very like basic bike that is a good all-around city bike and street bike because it's not tall, it's not big, it's good amount of power for what it has, and it looks pretty good.
All the kits and stuff out there, you can
100%.
You can pretty much do whatever you want to a SV650 in terms of like mods and customizations.
Absolutely.
And stuff like
So
that.
I think if you're planning to, upgrade or really play around with it, it's really good. Plus, there's a million of them. You can find them online so easy, and I'm pretty sure the parts for them are very abundant and cheap.
Suzuki, it's got to be.
Which is a very good thing to have in a beginner bike because, there's a high chance that you might end up dropping it or doing something with it, or you might want to like change some parts out, and you can find those pretty easily and very cheap compared to, say, like a European bike.
Yeah.
And speaking of European bikes, I also have on there for the naked/standard category the Triumph Trident 660.
Yeah.
Which is one of the newer Triumph models because I think it came out in the last couple of years or so.
It's 2021, I think, or it was announced 2020, but it was after I got my Honda because when that was announced, I was like, well, if I had known that, I would have waited.
Yeah,
So,
I do remember that. And the Trident 660 is a very nice and a very robust, like,
well, you got all sorts of
bike.
like honestly, like for like all the stuff that you get like on there, like I don't think it's true TFT, is it?
No,
it's got a
I think
fancier
it's an
screen.
LCD.
Yeah,
it's
but
an LCD, but it's like one of the nicer LCDs. It's got the color on it. It's a little brighter and stuff.
Yeah, and it's got like the or not a modes, but it's got cruise control, I believe, and then like
I think it does have a couple of riding. It has traction
it's a rider
control.
A. Yeah, that's it. Right, maybe not cruise. Yeah, probably traction control.
Yeah,
it's got a lot of good rider aids included,
like stability control and things like that. Something you don't really see on a lot of beginner bikes,
and it looks good.
And it looks good.
Yeah,
I don't have a picture unfortunately, but it is a good looking bike, and I think it's really nice that it has, especially like traction control and ABS and things, because I think those things can be very helpful for beginner rider. So you don't go too crazy, but also the bike can help you manage kind of sketchier situations. If you lose traction or can't get traction, it can kind of mitigate that and help you out with that a little bit.
Yeah, and just like the size of the bike and its torque and power, from what it seems, it's one of those things that you can grow into. It's one you're not gonna, shouldn't outgrow very quickly.
And I think this is a point that I just wanted to mention. A small engine bike doesn't necessarily mean it's not a fun bike or not a powerful bike.
No, not at all.
And I think one of the probably like benefits of a smaller capacity bike is that you can really rev them out.
Fun with it,
you can have fun with it. You can really push that engine without going like 100 miles an hour.
For a standard bike, like one I was considering and like put out was like the Duke 390 from KTM.
Yeah, I consider that
I see people having tons of fun on those things.
Yeah. Or like
on the baby Dukes.
Or like the Ninjas.
Yeah,
the Ninja 300, 400. Like, people...
R3, the Yamaha R3s, which is what I put for like, if you want like the fully fared sport bike, I would say like an R3.
Yeah.
And probably can't go wrong with an R3.
I had the Ninja 400 or the Honda CBR 550 for that because... One, it's cheap, reliable, easy to find. And if you want to get into sports riding, those bikes, they'll haul ass. Even though they're small capacity bikes, they're still very, very fast.
They're high wound. What's the word I'm looking for?
High rev.
They're high rev bikes.
And I don't think you can go wrong with either one, just because, like you said, smaller engine bikes. Yeah, you can still have a lot of fun with them.
It's a good sport bike for the road.
Yeah, and. I feel like if you're a new rider, you kind of you'll get to a point where you kind of know, or you feel like, I kind of want to do more, or I wish this bike did this, or had this feature, or had this other feature, and that's when it kind of starts to click for you. Yeah. That I want to look at another bike for a minute, and then you end up finding a good deal on one, or falling in love with one, and then you just end up buying one. You're like, oh, I'm back in debt now.
Yeah, it's like, that's what I've learned. The correct answer isn't to like get a different bike; it's to get another bike.
If I had the money in the room to put another bike, I would definitely do it.
Same. It's really hard not having a bike payment. I kind of miss that financial strain. I was like, I only have one motorcycle.
That is so much fun to have.
Yeah.
Right? I'm still paying for my Tiger, so it'll be a while before I get another one. But so next, I wanted to touch on.
Oh, can I say mine first?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Because like we're trying to stay in like a price point, or we're taking that into consideration for new riders. But like honestly, if you could find like a used one, or if you have like a little bit more like wiggle room in your budget, for like the standard / classic kind of bike, and I wasn't sure which to put this into. Honestly, like a street twin or a Bonneville T100. Those 900cc engines.
Yeah, you're right.
Because like those bikes or the Bonnevilles can be a little bit heavier in weight, just like for like the classic part of them. But like you're gonna be able to have a lot of fun on them.
They're beautiful looking bikes.
They're beautiful. Too. They're absolutely gorgeous bikes. If you want that classic standard look, and then I put down like the Trident or the the KTMs if you want more of like a standard naked bike, I guess. Bike. Yeah, but
that's actually a good point, because just the other week I saw it was a Bonneville T100. I think this is actually an older T120, but it was $10,000 used. So the T100 would be even cheaper than that. Mm-hmm. So it's, if you want like a very classic looking old school motorcycle, those are actually a very good option. You can find used ones. It's a little bit harder to find right now, but you can find used ones for under $10,000, and I mean, you'll be cruising in style on those.
Yeah, and even like the street twin too. Like it still has that classic Bonneville look with a little bit more modern twist to it. Yeah, so it's like, I would say like those would be some
very good looking bikes. Yeah. Also, even this just came up in my head, the Desert Sled, or the Ducati.
The Scrambler. Oh, I was like, I would have to disagree with you on the Desert Sled for being a beginner bike.
I was thinking the Ducati Scrambler Desert Sled, not the Desert X.
Oh, my bad. My bad. Yeah.
But that's also, but I think you can find those for under $10,000 too, or roughly around that price range. If you want something a little bit fancier, a little bit.
I do see a lot of the Ducati Scramblers around.
Yeah, it's a very popular model.
Yeah, and like they're not crazy expensive either. I mean, they're more than like what you'd get for like a Honda or something. 100%. It all depends like where you want it, like what you want to get. But I do see a lot of people on those. So, and
then for one last category I had, and this one I kind of put a question mark next to it because I wasn't really sure if this is the right bike for it. But I had the Versus 650. That's for like the touring category.
Oh yeah.
So if you want to do long weekend rides, or week-long rides, but don't really care about going off-roading and stuff like that.
And you don't have to break the bank for a touring bike.
Yeah, because touring bikes, they get up there in price because they have so many different features and things like that. But the Versus 650, you can find them used very, very cheap, and they're fairly cheap brand new, and they're just available everywhere, and they're pretty much your run-of-the-mill touring bike. They're a little bit more...
Sport touring bike, yeah.
They're kind of like... I feel like they're in between... sport touring and adventure, like this weird model, because they still have like
they kind of a
smaller front wheel and this like smaller back wheel compared to like true adventure bikes, but they still kind of like have the shape and look like they almost adventure-y. It's kind of a weird like hybrid in between type model, but I think they do look. I mean, they look fairly good.
I think I remember like looking at one, like an ad online for one, because it was used, it was cheap.
Yeah.
Or shouldn't say cheap, it was affordable.
Yeah.
For like what I was looking at, I was like, I don't think it really would have been a bad option, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know. I haven't ridden one, so it would be unfair to say I had more fun on my Rebel, but
yeah.
The Rebel was a little peppy 500. It was a little fun. So,
and But the touring category, if you are looking to get into that, you're going to be probably more than likely pony up a little bit more money, because those bikes, true touring bikes, get pricey very fast, especially in the sport touring category.
And we've discovered too that the motorcycle is not the most expensive part of motorcycling.
No, it is not.
It is everything else that you just end up having. I was looking around like my little office space and like all that. It's just. I've got so much stuff.
I have so much random gear.
And I was like, why do I have this? I haven't worn this since I bought
exactly.
it.
And that is a good point to bring up and get segued to the next segment, really, is when you're starting out, don't just budget for the motorcycle. That's going to be a large chunk of your budget, but you're going to be spending a ton of money on gear, and you can find very cheap gear from various different brands and different, even from more of like the premium brands, put in quotes. They have different levels of
yeah. Well, like all this for the helmets and stuff. Like, whoop, just bumped my mic. Like your safety is not going to be improved by spending more money.
No,
you just get some more creature comforts.
Exactly.
So
with the helmet, definitely look to make sure it's Snell rated,
Snell or
ECE,
yeah.
ECE, or the newer ones coming in is the FEMA, I think, or the
I know what you're talking. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
FIME.
Something. I know what you're talking about.
Okay,
yeah, because I watched. It's
a Fortnite.
Fortnite. I watched. Yeah,
talking about that, or in the UK they have the Sharp rating as well, which is like the UK standard. And in the US, obviously, they're all going to have to be DOT rated, Department of Transportation. But Fortnite actually has a really good video where it talks about how that's a very terrible standard because it's basically just an honor system, and anyone can put a sticker on their helmet saying it's certified. So I would personally always double check to make sure it's either ECE or Snell rated or Sharp or whatever other certifications, because those guys focus on certifying helmets not for just street riding but for actual like racing and things like that. So and it's not an honor system, they actually have to test them and prove that their helmet works to get that certification.
And on that topic of helmets, I was wondering what you think. So I started out, I bought like a $250 or a $300 helmet. And it got the job done. It was Snell and ECE rated, and it was a good helmet for safety and everything. But it was a little heavy. It was a little bulbousy, and then like by the time I got my other bike, I was just like kind of wanting something a little bit better, and it was loud too. So for me, I'm in the camp of like buy once, cry once now, because I started as like, okay, I'm just getting into this. I don't know if I'm going to like it all that much. So I bought a cheap jacket. I bought cheap gloves, cheap pants, and then like a cheap helmet. So like, and they were all motorcycle rated. They were safe, but I've replaced them, or I have them and I just don't use them anymore. So what are you buy once, cry once? Are you like thinking or would you tell somebody to like, obviously like don't, I wouldn't say like,
don't go over.
Don't empty your bank account for something better, but plan accordingly.
I don't remember if you remember when we first started riding together, since we both started relatively the same time.
Yeah.
But I came riding in a sand jacket.
Oh yeah, that's right.
The Revit Lombard jeans, about $250 jeans, and like what 200.
Yeah, you were all kitted out. Yeah.
I went all out, and a $600 helmet with a Shoei. I was in the more of the buy once, cry once type of deal, because I wanted something that I can just buy and have and be comfortable in and have it work. And the biggest thing that I spent the most money on was the helmet, because I was kind of under the impression like, oh, it's more expensive, so it has to be safer. It has to be safer and better. It was kind of after that I learned it's like, okay, that's not really the case. There's different levels, but like you said, there's the creature comforts that you get from a more expensive helmet. You get a better liner inside that's removable and washable and more like, was it antibacterial, so it doesn't smell as bad. You might get better ventilation. You might get a better visor, or like it'll come with like a pin lock,
or just noise control,
or just better noise insulation and things like that. And so not necessarily safety, but it just makes you feel more comfortable. They could be lighter. Like you got some of those climb helmets that are carbon fiber and they weigh next to nothing and things like that.
Well, it could just be like maybe we're just too soft, because like there are people who do just fine with the lower stuff.
Yeah.
It's like. And I would say too, we do pretty long rides mostly too, so it's like
it just depends.
I think we need those a little bit more.
Yeah, it kind of just depends on what your comfort level is. I personally like to be comfortable, even though motorcycling is not the most comfortable activity, but I prefer to make myself like as comfortable as I can be while also enjoying motorcycling. And that for me involved spending a little bit more money just so I can get a jacket that I really like the fit of, that will work in multiple situations, because it is an adventure jacket.
Right.
So it works well on long rides or just colder weather rides. But I did end up buying more gear later on still. Like I have my Airwave jacket for summer riding because, I want as much airflow as possible. I have 2 pairs of street boots because I realized the ones I bought initially were a little too hot because they're waterproof.
Yeah.
And then I bought my adventure boots because I needed nice touring boots for long rides and for off-roading because I don't want my shins and ankles to be breaking apart. So I did spend probably the most money on boots after the helmet because I have 3 different pairs now. And beyond that, I have a pair of touring pants and a pair of jeans. So I focused initially on more like the adventure riding type stuff, minus the boots. That was kind of like, I should have just bought adventure boots from the start.
Yeah.
But now that I do a mixed bit of riding, I kind of like having motorcycle clothes that look casual, but also a set for something more technical.
Yeah. No, I hear that.
So I think in the end, it just kind of depends on what kind of riding you're doing. If you're,
your couch just scared me.
if you're doing more street riding and things like that, you're going to be buying a certain set of clothes. But if you're planning on doing touring or adventure riding and going long distance, you're probably going to be spending a little bit more money because those clothes tend to get a little bit more expensive because you get they have like the waterproof linings.
And we can't forget the sport bike riders, their leather suits.
No, that's true. That's a whole other level of category. And those leather suits do not look cheap.
No, they don't.
Or very comfortable.
I can't say I've never been in a leather suit of any kind. So
I feel like I would just spoil in it probably until I start moving. So there's different levels of gear that you can get and to look at. One of my best recommendations probably is to go to your local, if you have a, like if your local motorcycle dealer has an area inside where they sell gear and equipment and things like that, to go in there and try it on yourself, especially the helmet. I think those are ones you have to try on in person.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Try them on, see how they feel. And if something doesn't feel right, try something else. Because just remember, you're going to be spending a long time on this, and you don't want it to have any weird like pressure points or pulling or nagging anywhere that's going to distract you from riding and from watching the road and enjoying the ride.
Well, and making you not want to wear it too.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I hear that from people who's like, oh, I have safety gear, but like I don't want to wear it because it's uncomfortable. So it's like, well, like, and not that it's ever gonna feel like regular clothes, but
and it doesn't, and that's just kind of a,
But you can find something that would So it's like I would say like just spend the time and perhaps the money if warranted to get something like a little bit higher quality. I don't even want to say quality because there's some good stuff that's not
cheap,
super expensive, but
just something that feels comfortable and right.
Don't just go for the lowest bid.
Yeah. And one of the things I noticed also with spending a little bit more on gear, or especially like clothes and stuff like that, and those some of the more expensive styles is better armor, not necessarily in terms of protection but in comfort. Because you get that more flexible armor instead of hard armor. Like on my Revit jacket, like it's got a lot more flex in the elbow, and I really like that.
Oh, and your Airwave one.
Yeah, the Airwave has their Sea Soft armor, which feels really nice, and
that is some pretty good stuff.
Yeah, so for me, that was worth spending just for the extra comfort. But I mean, everyone has their own levels of comfort, so I think it's just kind of up to the person to determine what they're willing to do. And if they want to ride with street clothes, I mean, it's their life. It's their safety. It's not mine.
I would say like it's just do what you want, but I don't care. Wear a helmet.
Just please wear a helmet.
Yeah.
What helmet and gloves.
Yeah.
And proper boots. That's everything else you can kind of probably just like
as long as they wear a helmet and gloves. Not that I would bug them anyways.
Especially because I was also from Fortnite. From Fortnite, I remember here. He had a video talking about how one of the biggest injuries happens on the ankle because if you're a new rider, you have a chance of dropping the bike, and if your boots aren't protected, and I'm talking proper riding boots, not just hiking boots.
Well, when you dropped your Tiger, and good thing you're wearing ADV boots.
Yeah. My foot was fine. I felt nothing, and my foot was pinned. Like I had to prop the bike up a little bit to slide that out, and my foot was fine. And that was an ADV boot. That was a whole different situation. But if you're riding on the street, something with a bit more ankle protection than your average boot, and abrasion protection is the big one. Will save you a lot of money in hospital bills and a lot of pain later on, I feel like. So, my opinion, boots, gloves, helmet is probably the 3 most important things you can get, and then everything else you can kind of piece together as whatever safety level you want to be at.
Yeah. I am an at person except for the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride, and then I wear a helmet and gloves. And
there's only been a few times where I've worn I still wear my jacket all the time, but I wore just regular jeans. And that was when we went on that the Rocket 3 ride. I was just wearing regular jeans and boots because it was just around the block there, the neighborhood. It wasn't really a long ride, so I was like, okay, fine, I'll risk it. But that's still a risk right there.
Yeah. Well, and I like with the you know what, skip me, I lost it. I had something important to go with that, but I've lost it, so that's on me.
Big important thing I would recommend though is earplugs.
I would say earplugs for long rides,
especially for long rides. And I don't know, for me personally, I have pretty sensitive hearing, I feel like, and I already have slight ringing in my ears, which I don't like. So once I did like my first higher speed ride that was not around the neighborhood, that was actually like getting up to 60 miles an hour, so I was like, my ears are killing me. I feel ringing, they are very loud, and I did not expect it to be as loud as that on a motorcycle. It just never occurred to me for some reason, because I've never really been on one before, and I'm just like, oh yeah, it'll be loud, but it won't be that bad. But I was like, oh, this is loud. So I made sure to invest in some like high fidelity earplugs that wear comfortably under the helmet, so I can still hear traffic, but I can't hear the wind or the road noise quite as much, and it helped immensely. Plus, I feel like it helps a lot on longer rides because it keeps you more awake, more sharp, because you're not getting that constant noise.
Yeah, for me, it's like, I usually do wear them, but if I'm going to go like grab some food with some friends and it's not very far, I'm just like, I don't want to have to, so like, but long rides, highway for sure.
Yeah.
And not even like long distance rides, just like okay, I'm going to be out for a while, like just wherever I'm going. Yeah. Just if I'm just going to be putting around town, like then I'll wear them in, because then I'm exposed to that sound for a long time.
Exactly.
So
it's the amount of time you're exposed to it, not necessarily the loudness of the sound.
Yeah.
But I think that's a very important thing to have.
Also, if you start out on a Honda Rebel with that stock exhaust, that thing's going to blow your eardrums out. So, that barge of a muffler. Once
you lose that hearing, it's not coming back. So if you're a new rider, just be cautious and be aware of that, especially if you're planning on doing longer rides, because you'll probably regret it in the future.
Yeah.
So because I used to listen to really loud music.
Yeah.
With earplugs in or earphones in high school, and now
I just neglected my ears. So,
I think we all did at one point in life, and now we're kind of paying for it a little bit.
No, but I was gonna say I did ride to. I thought I could be one of those guys who would like go to the gym on their motorcycle, and it's like, because I missed riding. It was like, it's like I rode to my gym, which is only a few blocks away.
Yeah.
So I had my helmet and my gloves, and I was just in gym clothes. I did not like that at all.
No, I rode mine in shorts one time too, just around the neighborhood to pull it back into the garage, and I was like, nope. I feel so exposed and uncomfortable.
You don't really realize how like thin like gym shoes are until you're like going down the road. You're just like, oh, this is tissue paper for me.
Yeah,
like,
if I were to fall right now, this would disintegrate into my foot like immediately.
So props to you guys who do that, but
also please
I can't
wear foot protection. When you first started riding, did you kind of expect to be spending or looking at gear as hard as you did?
Yeah, I guess. Like maybe I didn't like fully realize it, but like I was aware of how much time I was spending looking at gloves, helmets. Like, oh, that looks cool. I hate that.
Yeah. Did you buy your gear before you buy your bike?
Or did you get the bike first? I bought my helmet first. I was just like so. I think I just needed that shopping therapy.
Yeah.
Because I just like, it was like the day after like a family funeral. And so I just like went and grabbed, bought my first motorcycle helmet. And like, I hadn't even taken the MSF wasn't for like another month or something.
Oh, really? Okay.
Or no, that's not right. It was a few weeks. It was still a few weeks ago. So I bought my own helmet for the MSF.
Okay. I didn't know that.
That's and then fun. I bought once I finished with the MSF, I went and bought my jacket and gloves the same day.
Okay.
And I started out using just like standard work boots for a minute, and then
I did my MSF almost a year before I actually bought my motorcycle. So I had quite a long time too. I couldn't actually afford a bike at the time, but I really wanted to have the endorsement for when I do finally can't afford a bike, I can just go and buy one. But it was about 2 weeks before I bought my first bike that I bought all the gear, because I was so concerned about safety and just being protected, because I don't want to have to go to the doctor or end up in the hospital. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna buy all this, and then I can spend money on the bike.
Right.
So I kind of reversed, and this was during COVID, so it's nice to have those sweet stimulus checks. So
yeah, that's what helped me get mine.
Stimulating the economy by buying motorcycle gear.
Yeah, just it's patriotic.
Yeah, so. We did our duty as Americans.
Buy your motorcycles.
Buy motorcycles. Be an American. Yeah, but since then, it's just kind of I feel like after you start riding, you kind of just learn to pick up on what kind of equipment and gear you need, what you're missing, and where you need to make upgrades, and why you can probably save some money.
Yeah, I'm just gonna adjust here, but no, I think that would be really good too. And if you can too, like this is one thing I've kind of picked up on is like if the shop will let you, if you're like shopping in person. Or if you order online, just try it out like before you take off on the road. Like see how it feels.
Exactly.
Like if you got new gloves, make sure you can manipulate your controls, everything right. You know, it's kind of like if you ever take flying lessons, they tell you to do like armchair flying, and it's kind of like sit down for a while, wearing your gear. It looks better if you live alone. You look like a weirdo with people walking around and you're sitting in a house with motorcycle gear. But actually, no, like really just like sit in all your stuff and just wear it for a minute. Because then you'll find it. I would rather find out if I hate something at home than
so. What I do with basically any piece of clothing I buy, whether it's motorcycle related or like ski jacket, outdoor clothes and stuff like that. I will, even in the store, I was trying on ski jackets just last week, and I'm standing there in the middle of Columbia store, like reaching my arms up, touching my toes and stuff, like moving around, stretching, because I'm just like, okay, where's it pulling? What's it doing? And I basically do that with any kind of like technical clothing I buy. Did the same thing with motorcycle clothes, especially with the pants. Like, how does it feel if I squat down or sit in that? But does it pull anywhere? And I think that's just kind of one of those important things to try out, so you know that they're going to be comfortable on the on the long ride.
No, I agree. I think that's just stuff that it sounds like we've both just kind of like learned as we go. So.
If you were to start riding now, or looking back to when you first started, would you do anything different in regard to what kind of gear you bought, or
like I said,
or even what kind of motorcycle you bought?
Yeah. Yes. No. I like I said before, is like I would have spent more on like the gear now, because like, you know, like maybe I spent less than you when I started out.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, 8 months later, I'm buying it all over again. So, you know,
and I'm still rolling with most of the same stuff.
Yeah. So, but at the same time, I did switch from legs. Like, I thought I wanted that little baby cruiser life.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, adventuring is more fun for me personally.
So if you were if you were to go back in time, knowing that you would get want to do adventure riding, what would you get instead for your bike?
Well, helmet or wait for the bike,
motorcycle.
Yeah. Well, I already said like my dream bike was that Scrambler. I didn't think I'd ever afford it, so like then I did.
That's true.
So I got the bike I got, like, you know, I'm scrolling through all these types of motorcycles, and I saw the Scrambler, the Triumph Scrambler. Yeah. I was like, that's the bike. That's the one. Okay. But then I saw the price and then landed on something. I was like, and then reality hit. It's like, no, I got to get something a little bit more like within my budget.
So you went for the cruiser life.
And not just because of cruiser, but it's a Honda. You know,
that's
Hondas
true.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why my first bike was a Honda, is because I just knew it was going to work. It's going to be very reliable.
And not just like that, just like, but it seems like price point wise, I think Honda will typically like take home the gold in that category of like approachability for the price.
100% agree.
So
Honda makes Honda makes some good motorcycles. Pretty much every motorcycle manufacturer makes good stuff, and I feel like all of them have the one or two models that are kind of like worse than the others.
Well,
or
that's why
just not quite as good.
Well, that's what I mean is like when I was looking for the Hondas, there's like
Yeah.
their price points are like kind of drove me to look at them more.
Me too.
So
because
yeah,
like my first CB500 that I had, or my first bike, that was a very good bang for the buck.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, looking at bikes now, you got the Transalp, which would have been probably something I would have definitely looked at.
Yeah.
When that first came out, because that has way more electronics. It's not as bare bones and a bit more. It's a bit beefier, like suspension and tire and wheels, compared to the CB500X that I had.
Does it make you wonder too? Sometimes it's like, because I look at, because I had to get a brand new car in 2021.
Yeah,
awful time to buy. But
better than now.
Better than now. Yeah, I think I slid on the line, but
Yeah.
but it looks like drivers for their cars they're more and more they're expecting things just to be standard on a car.
Yeah,
and do you think that's kind of happening now too? Like with motorcycle, like obviously maybe things haven't changed that much since 2020.
Yeah,
but like at the same time, like for the bikes that we're seeing come out now, like we're seeing a lot more or a lot less bare bone bikes, like for beginners.
I haven't thought of it until you just mentioned it, but I think that would actually make a really good topic for a full episode.
I was just thinking of that. I'm just like, it seems like there's just more and more like being expected to be the norm.
I think I kind of agree. Yeah, I mean, I feel like it also depends on which category of bike you're looking at. Like adventure bikes, I feel like people do kind of expect to see at least like an off-road mode and a way to turn off traction control,
or at least like off-road, like more like off-road, like higher suspension or something.
Higher suspension,
spoked wheels,
beefier tires, and things like that. But if you're looking at more of like a modern classic bike, I feel like it might be a little bit less of an expectation, because if you look at the BMW R9T, for example, that's a very bare bones bike
for what it is, honestly. Yeah,
and it's not a cheap bike still.
No.
Or even the R18 from BMW, like
they look
very bare
fun.
bones. They look wonderful, but very bare bones.
Yeah,
like very analog bikes. I think I don't even know if they have traction control or anything like that. I think they have ABS because I think that's a requirement. For most new bikes. But I think it just kind of depends on which model. But I do kind of agree that I feel like people are kind of expecting it a bit more and more.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering if in the next coming years, maybe if like you'll stop seeing digital screens, and like you'll have like the classic bikes, or they're going to keep their needles because that's part of the experience. But I feel like instead of like a digital display, like maybe that's just not going to be. I don't know. Maybe.
No, I agree.
Like, even like my dad's Honda Shadow, there's no gas gauge, there's no gear indicator. I think that technically is like the real back thing, but like.
But no, I personally couldn't do without like even at least a fuel gauge, because I'm like, I like to know how much gas I have left. I don't want that much anxiety in my life. It's already
I thought, and that's the other thing. Actually, I'm going to say that for new riders, it's a nice thing to have. I thought I was going to need it no matter what. But I just don't look at my gear indicator that much anymore.
I don't really look at mine either. No, unless I'm trying to find neutral.
Yeah.
I want to make sure it's in neutral.
That's
the only time I pretty much look at it. But other than that, I just kind of bump it up through the.
And in those in those bikes without it, they always have like a neutral indicator.
Oh, that's true. I forgot about that.
So it's like they look for that light. But I thought for sure is like oh no, I'm gonna mess this up. I need a gear indicator.
But now, so you're so used to it.
Yeah, because my first motorcycle experience was a dirt bike when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But I was thrown on something way too big. The class was going way too fast for me, and so I thought I didn't like motorcycles. And then I, got older than 30. So
both the bikes I had gear indicators, and fuel gauges, and I liked having that a lot.
Yeah, gauge is nice.
But yeah, I think for the most part, it will depend on the price point of bike you're looking at. I feel like with a more expensive bike, you kind of would expect.
Well, obviously, if you
features.
step back a few years too, like you're gonna get like something that was like not gonna have some of those features. And,
100%.
But you're gonna save a bunch of money.
That is very true.
So,
any additional advice for new riders that are tuning into this?
I don't really think so. Other than that, you really just gotta go get an idea of what you want to try, like. What's in your price point, your experience point, because I've heard of it happening. But to me, this would be my worst nightmare is if I went to test ride a bike at a dealership and I dropped it.
Oh yeah.
And that's actually, I didn't ride, my Rebel 500 because in the MSF I rode a Rebel 300.
Oh.
So I was like, I already kind of knew.
Okay. So
but at the same time, like if I hadn't done that, I thought about that before. It's like, I don't know if I would have like how I just being fresh into it, you know?
Yeah.
So, but I was,
And I think that's a good point to kind of wrap things up.
Maybe
on
I'm overly cautious. Anyway.
I mean, I think that's better than being too reckless, though.
Yeah. But what about you? What you were going to say?
Oh, I was going to say, like, I feel like that's a good way to kind of wrap it up, is just to mention that if you are in the market for a motorcycle, if you're starting out, go to your local dealerships, find out what they have, go sit on the, like, first try to figure out what kind of bike you want. Do you want to do off-road, on-road, touring, sport bike, riding around town, things like that, hitting the twisties? So figure out the category of bike and then go to whatever dealership you can and sit on them. Even if you don't feel confident to ride on them, actually sit on them, check them out, play with the controls, feel the sitting position to see how that is. So you
stand it upright, put the kickstand up. Yeah, actually, that's what I did do that.
And just like figure out what it's like to sit on that bike. To see, because maybe you think you want a fully fared sports bike, and you sit down and you realize, wow, this hurts my back, and I don't want to sit on this for more than 30 minutes. And now you know, because now you went to the dealership and you tried it out, and now you know better. And just things like that. And the same goes with gear, like you mentioned. Go to the store, try it out. Basically, end of the day, I think just try it out, experiment, see what you like, see what you don't like. And if dealership lets you go demo one, do it.
To piggyback off of that with you too, it's like I don't know about you, but typically I've seen that the sizing, not just between brands, but just like the sizing of motorcycle clothing is just there's no rhyme or reason. There's no rhyme or reason.
Yeah, I will wear a large in one brand and I have to go 2XL in another. Mm-hmm. Yeah, even within the same brand, I have to look at different styles. Because I think my sand jacket is a large, my Airwave is a 2X, which seems huge, but it just feels it just depends all on the cut and things like that. So just keep that in mind. I think that's a good point to wrap it up on.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I think we need to start doing some like socials though, like Instagram. I don't know. I'm not touching Twitter, but if you want to, but
I'm good. So we'll just stick to Instagram, TikTok maybe.
Oh yeah.
Let's see, because we can. Oh, sorry about that. We can put clips from that on that.
Oh yeah.
On TikTok or Instagram. So we'll link them down here once we create them, or we'll link them in the description once we get around to making them. And once again, thank you so much for listening. And like always, if you have any comments or suggestions or any recommendations for future topics, or just let us know how we're doing or how we can do better, feel free to shoot us an email. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, feel free to leave a comment below. Yeah, and again, thank you for everyone for listening. Thanks to Eurosports Utah for all the guys down there, like letting us check out bikes and generally just come hang out. So thank you so much, everyone, and we will see you next month. Bye.